All right, hey, how's it going? Today I have something else to show you. This is the True Flight Thrower by Cold Steel. Had this for a few years now, so I've had a chance to kind of try it out and figure out what it can do and what it can't do. And I would say probably typically you're going to see a review on this thing, and it's going to involve throwing it, because that's what it's sold as. It's sold as a throwing knife, and it totally works as a throwing knife. It's a little bit big. I mean, it hits with a lot of force. So I've tried it. You know, I've definitely thrown this thing quite a few times. But I'm gonna talk about a different application for it. So this is it right here. It's pretty solid. It's paracord handle, but even though it's just paracord, the way they wrapped it, it gives you a decent grip. And I guess it kept the weight down, you know, for the whole balance thing, for it being a thrower, which, you know, for that, the balance is pretty good. You can see that. But I like it to go camping with, and there's a reason for that. This thing is probably the best baton knife that I've ever used. You can go batoning with this thing and have that little extra length that sometimes you lack with a batoning knife. As far as the thickness, it's you know, it's decently thick. I mean, it was meant to be a thrower. It doesn't really have to be thicker than this to do batoning. It works really well. It could really take the strikes, like if this was right here. If I had a piece of wood that I was using as my baton and I was hitting on this, I mean, I'm striking this thing constantly, and it's not going to warp, and it's not going to bend and twist or anything like that. Not going to break. Also, another thing that helps it with not breaking is the fact it's made out of a 1055 carbon steel. Basically what that means is this thing is meant for impact and resilience, and that's really good for a thrower. This thing is driving into a piece of wood. I mean, the shock on this thing is, you know, pretty incredible, especially because it's a larger thrower. There's a lot of heft. And so 1055 makes a lot of sense. Now, as far as edge retention, you are going to get some, but compared to some of the harder steels, like 1095, for instance, it's not going to compare to that. But I guess they figured for a thrower, really, is the edge all that important? Now, I started using this as a camp knife, and for splitting wood, if you're going to be batoning, yeah, you want some edge retention, but really, it's the fact it's a wedge. And I'm not saying this thing dulls quick. I mean, it holds up, and you can sharpen it, you know, fairly easy again. But yeah, because it was designed out of this resilient steel, it really holds up to the shock. The handle is listed at 5 1/4 inches, which is, you know, just what you need. As far as the it's a 12-inch overall, so it's a 6 3/4 inch blade, and that works out real well because of that extra length that I like to have on the end when I'm driving it in. I've put it through the test. It's pretty straight. It's held an edge. This coating on it, it does help with you know, keeping it from rusting. You don't want this thing corroding. It is a 1055. It's gonna, I mean, just get horribly rusty if you let it. Now, in using this, I have definitely worn some off. Now, it's held up pretty good, but in the areas where it's worn off, which are the high friction areas where this grind meets, you know, comes up to this little angle here where it's like the high point, full thickness, it's worn it off there when I've been batoning. And you can see all the wear marks, and right in here there's a little bit of corrosion happening, which I'm gonna have to address at some point. Now, as far as the sheath, pretty good sheath. It's labeled as a Core X sheath. you know, whatever. I'm not familiar with the term, but whatever that means. It's a you know, a synthetic material. There's something, it looks like it's wrapped around something, maybe a plastic or something rigid that's in there. And then it has these little plates on the side here that, you know, I guess help kind of keep everything in place and guard it. It fits in there pretty good, and then in addition to that has this clip, which keeps everything in place. And first off, I mean, I wouldn't go shaking this like crazy, but that's pretty good, right? Just for a friction fit, and then just to kind of bring it home so you have no doubts, you have that thing. Now, as far as how much good does that do? Doesn't really do a whole lot. Look, it's still closed. So, is it necessary? I'll leave that up to you to decide. But it's there, and try to give it just a little extra, you know, a little extra something to hold on to it, I guess. So yeah, so this is the Cold Steel True Flight Thrower, and I recommend it for a fantastic batoning knife. And we'll do a little batoning here in a second so you can see what I'm talking about. All right, so we're here at our little chopping station, my little tower of wood, and we're gonna do some batoning. So, but I don't have a good baton around. I figured I'd use this piece of wood here. I need to put a handle of some kind of grip, so I can use the Cold Steel True Flight Thrower. Kind of like a camp knife in this situation. I'm going to be trying to smooth this out so I can get a good grip on it, and then use this as a baton. I could find an appropriate piece of wood, but I figured this would be a pretty good demonstration of how it's not just a throwing knife. All right, well, I don't need to make it look too pretty. I just need to make it look, you know, decent. All right, I get a good grip on this thing here. And you know, it's safe. This is a good way to split kindling. Now, some people say I just use an axe. Okay, I understand why you might think just use an axe. Choosing the right knife is really important, because I mean, this for that is the right knife. I mean, it's made out of 1055 carbon steel, very resilient. I mean, they make like it's like a good steel for a machete, because it won't break, you know. I'm holding on to the handle. I mean, the blade becomes the handle. It's all one piece. It's a full tang just wrapped with some cord. Okay, so let's try something a little bit bigger and see if we can make this work. Make this work while we're on camera anyway. Make the stand would be nice. It's a little bit crooked here. Let's see here. And I definitely recommend it for your next camping trip.